Hey everyone, Greg here with Science Studio. So a few videos ago, you may recall a video that I uploaded detailing the painting process behind one of my older computers. It was based on the i3-6100 and was built inside of a white NZXT S340 case. I had painted everything in there, from the graphics card, like the entire graphics card, I had to disassemble everything, to the VRM heatsinks, to the solid state drive trays, and even the DDR4 I had painted completely white. I ended up calling the color scheme cocaine white, even though I obviously do not condone the recreational use of cocaine, right? This video here is going to expand upon that idea just a little bit. We're not going to paint any PC parts in particular, at least the parts that are in a case like that, but we're going to paint some peripherals. So basically things that aren't physically inside the PC, but that work with the PC all the time. So in this case, I decided to paint my keyboard. Now you're thinking, that doesn't sound very smart, Greg. How are you going to paint a keyboard? You got a lot of keys in there, you're going to have to disassemble everything. Well, yeah, I did have to disassemble everything. That was just part of the process, but I think that the results kind of made up for the amount of time that I had put into it and the $6 or $7 that I paid for the paint. So let's get right to it. I don't want to keep you too long. I know that the last painting video was super long. This one's not going to be that long. So let's jump right into the painting process and the steps that I had to go through to make it look like this. Okay, that's all you're going to see of it. Now let's get to painting. The very first thing I decided to do before anything else was take a picture of the keyboard with my phone. And this would come in handy later for reassembling each individual key onto the keyboard itself. If you don't believe me now, you'll believe me shortly. The keyboard we're using here is pretty old, made by Lenovo, and honestly not all that special, so my feelings won't be hurt if this paint job in particular goes south. I unplugged it from the back of my computer tower and then flipped it onto its backside. From here, 14 screws had to be removed, and they essentially held the top frame to the bottom frame, so they kind of just sandwiched them together. And since we'll only be looking at the keyboard from the front, I mean most of the time, I don't know why you'd ever look at your keyboard from down below, we'll just be painting the top of the keyboard. So we'll be saving some paint, and we'll also be saving some time as well. Now, each of the keys on this keyboard were held mechanically into place in the top frame, which meant that I had to manually remove each one of them individually. 2 flexible grooves held each onto the board, so what I did was just grab a pair of tweezers and essentially squeezed each pair of grooves together. They were basically just acting like a locking mechanism, and once they were squeezed together, the key would fall straight through the frame and onto a styrofoam sheet that I laid underneath it to keep all of the keys in order. This would make the reassembly process move much quicker as well, so if you can, try to keep these keys as in order as possible, even if they're backwards, because you'll just be able to pick one up and then pick the next one up in that line all the way down the keyboard. It'll save you a lot of time. Once each key was finally removed, I pulled out the only remaining component, that was that green LED shield on the top right corner, and yeah, just set that to the side. Don't want to paint that. So all we have left now is a large piece of plastic, which is exactly what we wanted because we can paint this entire thing. So let's do that, let's paint it. I had a can of white Plasti-Dip and a can of Plasti-Dip gloss to be applied afterwards. I made sure to shake the cans vigorously before each coat was applied, and that pretty much just helps stir up the liquid inside and prevent sudden oversprays during application. You definitely don't want oversprays. They're not fun to get rid of. Remember to spray back and forth, side to side, in a similar pattern with each coat. Begin spraying away from the panel and gently glide the can across it, being sure to stay around 6 to 10 inches away from the panel with each pass. Drift too close in this case and you could end up with, odd looking paint splotches, something you don't want. Drift too far away and you'll find yourself applying 8 or 10 coats before you actually see any solid result. So yeah, we don't want to waste paint here. We allowed roughly 30 to 45 minutes in between coats to ensure that each previous coat was dry. Remember in this case to not touch the paint when it's wet. You'll be left with an irritating thumbprint or something like that that will require many additional coats to remove properly. Once we had an adequate number of coats applied and dried onto the panel, we moved on over to our Plasti-Dip gloss. Now in this case we used liberal amounts to give the white paint a more glossy, reflective finish, obviously. And the more coats of gloss that were added, the shinier the result. So if you're looking for a matte finish, just stay away from this step completely. You won't need this at all. The white Plasti-Dip will look just fine the way it is. So when everything is dried, bring the panel back inside and inspect it for any obvious flaws. This is essentially the point of no return. You're not going to want to repeat everything all over again just because you found a few spots that were lacking in paint depth. I flipped the front panel upside down and then referred to the picture I took with my phone to carefully reinsert each key into its proper placeholder. The addition of the paint did increase key resistance since, each area for the key slot was slightly reduced, but I still found it to be tolerable. I reinserted the green LED cover at this point as well to finish off the, reassembly stage for the front panel. Now with every key back in its resting place, I merged both the top and bottom panels together again, that's another merge, and secured them with the 14 screws I had set to the side. After plugging the keyboard back into the system, I tested each key's functionality to ensure that everything was properly contacting the paper thin circuit underneath. I also gave it a real-world test on Microsoft Word, only to shortly conclude thereafter that I was very satisfied with the ergonomic and aesthetic appeal of the board. Now keep in mind that if white is not your color of choice, there are several other options to choose from. Plastidip comes in lime green, red, sunburst orange, black, gray, gold, yellow, blue, forest green. Okay, you get the point. I chose Plastidip because it's removable, but any paint intended for use on plastics, or I guess whatever material your keyboard is made out of, should be just fine. You'll just have to paint over it again if you get tired of what you already have. The white in my case matches the Phanteks Evolve ITX case right there. If you missed that entire build log video, you can go ahead and click the link here. If you want to just see a simple review of this case in particular, you can click the link here. Kind of have to move in the middle here so you can see both of them. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy either of those videos. If you haven't seen them already, go ahead and check them out. I think you will like them. So let me know, what do you think? Now obviously painting something like a keyboard is not going to be up everyone's alley. In fact, I'm fairly confident that a few of you think this idea is just completely stupid and should never have been pursued in the first place. But nonetheless, I'm happy with the result, and that's really all that matters. Other people's opinions about things that you do to your own personal items don't matter. As long as you think it looks cool, go right on. So I encourage you, go out and paint something. It doesn't have to be a keyboard or a computer mouse or even all of the parts inside of a PC. Just, something that you don't really care much about that you think would become more appealing if you painted it. Something like that. It's a project to consider, at least. Just be careful, as you'll assume all risk for anything that you do to any item that you own. See how I squeezed that disclaimer in there? Not bad, huh? I appreciate the watch. If you enjoyed the video, if you truly did, be sure to thumb it up. We appreciate all those thumbs up. But if you hated the video, think we should never do this again, thumb it down. Let us know in the comments below why you thumbed it down, what you thought was done wrong, or what you would like to see more improved in future videos. Just start discussions down below. I enjoy some of the comment chains that are going on. I mean, some of them get pretty crazy. That FX 6300 versus i3 6100 comment chain is getting a little out of hand, and I frankly cannot keep up with, I think we're like over 1,000 comments at this point. So anyway, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate all the views and all the videos that we have up so far, and stay tuned. We have an i5 4460 Haswell build coming very, very soon. This is Science Studio. Thanks for learning with us.